In this video, we're going to talk about how we're going to use Desmos to help us fill in a table. And so one thing to keep in mind when using Desmos, and Desmos, there's a link in Canvas, or you can just go to desmos.com/calculator, or you can use the app for your phone or tablet. One thing to keep in mind when we're using Desmos is Desmos always understands that the input letter is going to be X. Aside from that, we can use any variable that we want to for our output. And so in order to create a table where we know that the input in this case is Y is the year since 2008, and for Desmos, it's going to be using an X, and our output is the percent of total music sales from digital downloads, and that's our output. And so we know that when we would go to graph, this would be Y equals years since 2008, and then our output would be P equals the percent of downloads. Make that a little bit thinner. There we go. Of downloads, digital downloads, or music sales from digital downloads. All right, so let's look at how we're going to use Desmos for this. So we're going to put in our our equation, and we're going to, instead of using the Y, we're going to use X, and we use the same letters. And so when we go over to Desmos, and I'm going to type in P equals 6.8. You can use a capital P if you want to. I'm going to use X because that's what Desmos understands as our input letter or input variable, plus 24.15. And so we get a graph over here, although this is not the graph that represents what our actual situation is. So we're going to hit the gear or the settings where it says edit, and we're going to convert to a table. So I'm going to hit the convert to a table. So what Desmos is doing is automatically creating our input output table by generating some values. And each one of these values, we can delete these, or we can just go down and either edit them or insert new ones. So for 0, we have 24.15. So I know my output is 24.15. I have an input of 2.5, so I can either change my 2 and make it 2.5, and you'll notice that the output automatically changed. So what the table function does is it evaluates the equation. So it's putting in 2.5. So I just edited the 2 and made it 2.5, or I can just type in 2.5, and I get the answer of 41.15%. So 41.15. Now, Desmos cannot solve in the normal way that we're thinking. In other words, it can't solve using a table. So we're going to come back and talk about how we can solve this using Desmos shortly. But we're going to use Desmos to find 7. So again, I'm going to go to my input of 7, and Desmos gives me 71.75. And so that is how we'll use Desmos if we know the input. So the input is known. We use the table in Desmos to find the output.